Welcome everybody to the second weekend of the Spring Rights Literary Festival. I'm Robin Schwartz. I'm the Program and Grant Director of the Community Arts Partnership. And Spring Rights is just one of our many programs and services. You've heard of the Greater Ithaca Art Trail. We do the Ithaca Artists Market, the CAP Art Space. We have 5 grant programs. We've distributed like $4.6 million to local arts events since 1993. When I started the job. There are 2 more nights of the festival. There's tomorrow, there's going to be the Senior Theater Troupe, and they're doing movies, stories from our lives. And then there's a group reading, poetry, prose, and Poe. That's with Mickey Quinn, Andy Sanchez, Kate Doyle, Gwen Davis Feldman, and Lizzie Frank. And then at 7, Jay Leeming is going to, he's a storyteller. He's going to do stories from the Odyssey. And then after that, we're going to have 8 free writing workshops starting in March and going all the way, starting in December and going all the way through March. I want to do a quick plug for Capapalooza. Capapalooza is our annual fundraiser where we ask people to donate used art that you have in your closets, in your basements, art that you inherited, art that you bought as presents and you don't want, art that you got as gifts and you don't want. And Judith, who is on the call, her husband gave us what we deemed the ugliest piece of art last year. And Judith, I want you to know that we this year have, I think, the same artist, an owl painted on black velvet in the same frame that looked like it was hacked out of a coconut. So come see this really vintage, quirky, interesting sale. We have over 400 pieces donated and the prices are way low, like, $5, $10, $15, $20, so that we could sell out in 3 days and make a lot of money. First Saturday on the Art Trail is also this Saturday. So if you want to visit some artist studios, check out our website, which I'll put in the chat. And I want to thank our sponsors, Marriott, the Ithaca College, Wegmans, M&T Bank, and the Odyssey Bookstore. We also have funds from the New York State Council on the Arts and Poets and Writers. And we would love to ask you for a donation to our CAP annual fund. I was going to do suggested donations for Spring Rights, but I thought, no, people aren't going to come. It needs to be free. But of course, we do need money. So if you would like to donate, we would love it. Any amount is fine. And I'm going to put the link up in the chat. You will all be on mute throughout the events. As I've said, the speakers actually, you can unmute yourselves. But everybody use the chat to talk to each other. Tell us what you think, say hi, do whatever you want with chat. So I am now going to introduce the first reader. However, my introduction is in my email and I forgot to print it out. So you're now waiting for my email to come up on the screen. Has anyone noticed that when someone is waiting for you to do something on your computer, it takes like 8 times as long, or maybe it just seems to? Here we go. Okay, I am introducing Melanie Bush. Melanie Bush, as you can see, is currently in hibernation. However, she has agreed to wake up solely to do this reading, after which she will return to the land of sleep and dreams. She has left instructions that to wake her, I must sing a line or 2 from the Everly Brothers classic, All I Have to Do Is Dream. Okay. When I want Mel to read her prose, I have to sing to wake her doze. So if you want to hear her, all you have to do, sing with me, even though I can't hear you, is dream. Dream, 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 dream. Dream, 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 dream.
That worked.
Look, Melanie's awake. Go for it.
Thank you, Robin. That worked. So you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, since I am awake, I guess I'll read a couple of pages from my novel in progress. This scene takes place in the early 1990s. Out, shit. Connie came to the halfway as much as the agent would let her, and after 6 months now, that added up to a lot of gigs. But one day, right before Christmas, something terrible happened at the halfway. Something that shattered the safety on which all Connie's go-go happiness depended. A really cute guy came in. He was about her age, short and solid, with black hair, dark almond-shaped eyes, and a small white smile. Exactly the type of man she was attracted to in real life. The result of his appearance was immediate. Connie became completely unable to do her job. In a second, she could no longer do any of the things the job required. How could she be standing on a stage wearing tiny underwear, smiling out at men from between her legs and pretending to grab her own ass? She suddenly felt completely ridiculous. Everything now was thrown into question. What horrible thing had gone wrong between men and women that they created places where they acted like this? Suddenly, she was not a stripper, she was just herself, and all the thoughts she needed to think to do this job evaporated. But she still had to work. Looking everywhere but at him, Connie jiggled and shimmied and bent. She tried to focus on the halfway's other customers, but there weren't many, and none were paying attention. The cute guy was. He held out a 10. She walked over. The customer's eyes were all on the exact level of her crotch. How had she never noticed that? How you doing? He smiled up. He had dimples on both sides of his mouth. I'm okay. How are you? Good. Great, actually. Talking to him at least got her out of dancing for him. Now she could just stand there. The bartenders didn't care what you did at the halfway as long as the men bought you drinks between sets. Will you sit with me after your dance? 20 minutes later, Connie sat next to him on a stool. He bought her a drink, one of the 12 screwdrivers she drank on her 6 in-between set breaks. His name was Michael. His family was Italian too, from a town maybe not too far from where her family came from. And what do you do when you're not here, I mean? Me? None of the guys ever asked about her real life. Yeah, you. He was smiling at her, a tell me a secret smile. She wanted to crawl into his mouth where she would be safe, where he couldn't see her anymore. His fingers traced figure eights in the wetness on the bar. Are you a student? No, well, I was. I finished high school last year. That's good. I was afraid you were jailbait. The bartender stood in front of them. It was time for her second screwdriver. Another one? Michael asked. Yes, thanks. Extra strong, please. That was her code with the bartender, that she wanted the vodka left in. Another for me too, then, said Michael, waving his glass of something manly and amber. I almost never come to places like this, he said, but I never met anyone like you there. The new drinks arrived. Connie sucked at hers furiously. Her next set started in 5 minutes. Michael, I kind of feel that way about you too, and I don't know if I can. Could you just leave? Okay. He didn't seem to think it was weird. Can I see you again? Can I have your phone number? The bartender was waving at her, pointing at the clock. Okay, but do it here under the table. They leaned down, their heads almost touching. Boy, was this against the rules, even at the halfway. He wrote his number on a napkin. Call me. His fingers were hard and hot as they touched hers under the bar. She ran into the ladies' room. By the time she looked out from the stage, he was gone. Driving back to the city in a wild rainstorm, dark already, though it was only 5 o'clock. She'd thrown Michael's number into her purse with all the other paper men had given her, damp piles of singles and fives. A police car streaked up behind her. She saw the lights before she heard the siren. red lines bleeding down her rear windshield in the sheets of rain. Great. Maybe she'd get a ticket for drunk driving. She didn't feel drunk, but she must smell like it. What would that mean? Fines, points on her license, jail? She pulled onto the shoulder. The rain was heavy and hard and sounded like nails hammering into the hood, the lid of a coffin. She could hear water rushing under the car like a river. Maybe the rain would sweep her away, a metal coffin for a living doll. The cop car stopped behind her, red light revolving, a silent heartbeat. They always made you wait to make you feel frightened, to make you feel small. They learned it from TV shows. Connie sighed angrily. It was cold in the car. She'd rushed away, wearing only a robe. She jumped to a hard rap on her window. She rolled it down a few inches. Cold rain hit her face. Driver's license. Connie fished around in her bag, pushing aside stockings and shoes, the odor of sweat and cigarettes wafting up. She grabbed her wallet, bulging with singles she hadn't bothered to cash in for 20s. She handed him the license. Open the window, ma'am. She rolled it down more. What seems to be the problem here, officer? She learned how to act with cops from TV shows too. The cop didn't answer. Of course not. He had his cop hat pulled down over his eyes. Open the window, ma'am. She rolled it down all the way, was instantly soaked. See, it's me. The cop tilted his head back and looked at her. You came from the halfway. Connie stared ahead. This guy had followed her all the way from the halfway? She was almost at the Holland Tunnel. That was 5 miles. Lots of cops went to the bars when they were off duty. Was he a customer? If there's no problem, officer, I really have to be going. There is a problem. What? There's something wrong with your car. It's pumping black smoke out the tailpipe. What? Connie twisted around but couldn't see anything. Is that serious? She leaned out the window into the rain, trying to see the back of her car. Might be, said the cop. Well, thanks for telling me. I'll get it looked at first thing in the morning. She felt safer now. Just a car problem, no jail. The cop didn't move. His eyes stalled on her robe where it had fallen open. I can't let you drive all the way to 230 East 6th Street in this condition, Miss DeSalvo. Connie jumped, but remembered that her name and address were on her license. I'll be fine. You could get into a dangerous situation out here. You think something could happen before I get home? The cop didn't answer. Rain slapped her face. She felt her will drain out of her. He gazed at her with dead, flat eyes. Okay, could you give me a ride to a payphone and I can call a tow truck? He nodded once, then turned and walked back to his car. The revolving red light went out. She waited for him to pull up beside her, but it didn't happen. He expected her to walk to him through the rain. She pulled her robe tight and got out. She watched his white face watch her. She got in. There's a gas station off the next exit. I'm sure they have a phone I can use. The doors clicked shut. She watched her own car recede through the sheets of rain, a wavering red blob, and then nothing. Don't worry, the cop said. I know a place. She faced the side of his head. She looked at his shirt for his name, but he wasn't wearing a badge. On the backs of his hands, he had shiny black hairs. He drove past the exit. Hey, that was the exit. Excuse me, can you turn around? I'm soaking wet and I don't want to get sick. He looked straight ahead. Some people might think you already are sick. What? You heard me. Inside her head, blood hit the top of her skull, banged back down. You can let me out right here. I'll take you where you need to go. Outside the window, wet, black highway slid away. If she jumped from a moving car, would it kill her? A huge truck appeared. When they pulled parallel to the truck's cab, Connie pressed the window button. Surprisingly, it rolled down. She stuck her head into the knives of water. Help me, help me. Her voice was tiny, swallowed by the huge flap of the truck's tires against the road. The cop grabbed her arm and yanked her back in. Her head slammed against his shoulder and he pushed her away. Don't touch me, bitch. She slumped against her door. How can you do this? Aren't you a cop? He laughed without moving his face. Connie almost laughed too. She felt like she was already dead. He swerved across the highway to a place with broken bottles and broken cement. He left the motor running while he unbuckled his belt. He was going to rape her and kill her and throw her body in the dirty bushes where rats would eat it. And no one would ever know a cop had done this to her. Thank you. Okay, well, it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce Matt Gordon. Matt dreams with water and without, in stereo or mono. On waking, he rarely remembers, but Thursday night, it was a van backing slowly off a cliff and a long time into taffy fall into water. Everyone, thankfully, survived.
Thanks, Melanie. And thanks for reading. That was really, really, really powerful. Super grateful and thankful to be reading with everybody. Thanks for tuning in, everyone else. Some context for what I'm going to read. It's a section of a short story called Softer Engines, and it's told from the perspective of a woman named Raina, who is she's participating in a nighttime parenting class that she's obligated to be in by Child Protective Services. And she's had a particularly bad night. When the story picks up, she is outside, it's nighttime. She's abruptly left the class and she's in one of those plastic towers you would find on a kid's playground with another woman who's also in the class for the same reason. And they've just taken some prescription opioids. And this is the first time that Raina has relapsed in many months. So that's where things pick up. We sit in the dark for a long time, not talking. It's just night sounds. Soon, the warm release comes and we're gone. Somewhere very far away, car doors are clapping shut, motors grumbling to life. And I'm floating above the playground, safe from everything, the sensation of thick blankets coming on, covering me, the air now cool against my face. The engines move away in the distance while I do the same, forgiven and forgotten. I rouse to the sound of a fish flailing inside a plastic bucket. My eyes open to a paler dark, and it's Dee Dee, her legs kicking spasmodically, the heels of her sneakers skittering against the hard plastic, her arms pressed tight to her sides as if bound there. I sit forward, still swimming in the thick liquid of the drug, and attempt to hold her legs, but she's strong and her knees bruise my chest. Dee Dee, I say, putting my hand against her face. Dee Dee. My hands rush to every pocket on me, hollow gloves sifting through pine needles. They scour my bag, groping for the phone that isn't there. How is it just gone? I'm about to climb down from the tower when I remember Dee Dee's phone. Frantically, I move my useless hands in manic sweeps over the floor, trying and failing to be methodical. I check Dee Dee's pockets as best I can, given her convulsions. Dumb with panic, I check my own again. Dee Dee's shaking has slumped her body into an extreme version of the pose she's taken each week in class. Then I see it. Down through the open hatch, lying on the wood-chipped ground, is her phone. Its face lit a pale blue. I scramble down, flip it open, and I'm about to dial 911, but stop. I need to think. There's got to be someone else. But I only know a small handful of numbers by heart, none of them useful now. I click the symbol that looks like a phone book, and I'm scanning down through Dee Dee's contacts. I hear a squeezed, tinny voice. Mom? Hello? I put the phone to my ear and listen. A beat of silence, then, Mom! I hold the phone out and look at the screen, which is changed to say, call from Gabe. What the fuck? Icy sweat flushes from my palms and I struggle to keep my grip on the phone. All of this is wrong. I wait what feels an impossibly long time. Mom! I say nothing. Can't make words come. Then the soft, distorted snip of the line being cut. I look at the screen, the text blinking. Call ended. 0 minutes, 47 seconds. I jab the end button again and again and again, desperate for the certainty that he's no longer there, waiting for a reply. I dial 911. From the direction of the parking lot, the tense rattle of a woman's voice stands out against the shrill curtain of cicadas. I snap the phone shut and run, unsteady over the soft ground. When I reach the parking lot, I find Lorna, yelling into her own phone in the midst of some argument. She jumps at the sound of my sneakers slapping the asphalt and wheels around. I watch her expression flip from terror to relief, then deep concern, all in the space of a second. Hang on, she says into the phone before clamping it to her chest. Raina, what's wrong? Dee Dee, I gasp. She needs to go to the hospital. Where is she? I point back toward the playground, and Lorna, taking this in, seems to work everything out in her mind. Her expression makes the subtle leap to anger as I tell her, we need to go now. We get in Lorna's car and move silently over the lawn to the playground, close as we can get. She follows me up onto the wood chips and then to the small plastic tower where Dee Dee is still and slumped in the dark, awkward and unconscious. I climb up its side and kneel beside her, my fingers fumbling for a pulse at her neck. I can't find it, but I'm not sure I'm doing it right. It hits me then that if Dee Dee dies, if she's already dead, they will take Kayla. The police will make me talk, and I won't be able to lie about this, about being here with Dee Dee. They'll test my blood and I'll tell them everything, and then they'll take my daughter. We need to get her in the car, I say, because it's too much to think now to run out every single thread, to consider anything. I position myself to lift Dee Dee, arms forked beneath her arms. Lorna stands just outside the tower looking like she might be sick. Help me. I shuffle Dee Dee to the edge of the tower and Lorna takes her legs while I climb down, and together we hoist her out. It's a ways to the car, and though Dee Dee can't weigh much more than 100 pounds, it's a struggle to get her there, and we have to stop twice so I can get a better grip. She is bones and skin, and that's all. In the crude, yellow light, I see traces of foam at the corners of her mouth, a tuft on her wet chin. I can't help the thought that she's already gone. As we fumble to get her in the back seat, Dee Dee's head hits the frame above the door, and I want to give up right there. All done. Sorry. This isn't going to happen. It's too much. The drug pleads for me to abandon this garbled mess of a plan. Just wait for the ambulance to come. Tell us she's dead. Lorna rushes around to the opposite door and drags Dee Dee by her torso until she's upright with her feet inside. We slam the doors, get in, and drive off. For a full minute, we're silent. I click on the dome light and look back, and I'm sure of it now. Fuck. Lorna keeps glancing up into the rear view, asking, is she dead? And I say, no, over and over until we're both quiet again. I'm dissolving back into nothing when we pass an ambulance, its lights blaring soundlessly. Lorna turns to me, her eyes asking. Keep going, I say, because we can't get there fast enough as it is, because she's probably already gone, and though it's too late, this is the only thing we can do, to act as if we're doing something that matters. Just as we're coming to the main entrance of the hospital, Lorna pulls over onto the shoulder. What are you doing? My heart, now the flailing fish. Get out, Lorna says. What the hell? I will drive her up, but you can't be with me. I'm struck dumb, the panic mushrooming. Lorna, fiercely calm, says, you're going to get out of the car and wait until you sober up. Get a coffee or something. Then come looking for her. Lorna reaches across and opens my door. Raina, she shouts. Out. That's that. Thank you. Up next, Susanna Drbal is grateful for her dreams. Otherwise, what would she have to write about? She's from Ohio. She has a cat named after Klaus Kinski, and she likes the word bittersweet. Susanna Drbal.
Hi, and I will apologize in advance in case Klaus gets squirrely, which he might, but we'll see. I'm going to read 2 short things, and thank you everybody for being here. This is called Love Shakes My Heart, and with thanks to Sappho, as well as to Z Zahava. Be kind to me under the full moon, for love shakes my heart. My heart is beating, but not beaten. It is shaken and it is stirred. I'm of 2 minds whether to tell you this, but as I've taken pen to paper, there's little reason to stop now. The ink flows and my wrist is loose and flexible. The other night, I dreamed that you and I had words. The meat of the disagreement was hazy, but it was clear. A disagreement it was. You were shaking your head, no, no, no. And I answered with a shrug of the shoulders and a throwing up of hands. You wagged your index finger in my direction, your head thrust forward between your raised shoulders like a hen in the middle of a strut across the barnyard. The dream was interrupted by a flash of lightning outside the window and the accompanying clap of thunder a few seconds later. In the light from the storm that followed, I saw your sleeping face peeking from under your hair, the tip of a finger pulling down your lower lip like you had reached up to scratch your nose and gotten hung up on the retreat. On the pillow next to your face, a small spot of drool puddled. Then your lips moved soundlessly. I imagined what you were saying in your own dream. Were you also dreaming we were